Well, what a day it has been for ALGS in the last 24 hours. We've seen a lot of stuff, including TSM Imperial Hal no longer being on TSM. But what did that amount to for the TSM roster with Verhulst and Reps? What's going to be going on in that camp? And then also some of these other roster changes. How are they holding up? How are they stacking up? What was scrims like and the first results that we actually got? By the way, really good scrim set yesterday. A lot of people were actually playing serious and it felt like it was very competitive and not a chalked set of scrims. So interested to see what you guys are thinking about all of the topics here. Firstly, wanted to make mention, Rambo said scrims were back, and of course, Native Gaming was involved with this. Now we're seeing some changes with Native, of course. Their roster's new, their roster's different. Rambo was supposed to be playing with Lux. That didn't turn out. Lux is gone. Klein was gone. And Lux should be trialing, obviously, with OpTic Gaming. But then you also see Sikezz. He came out to say not only is Imperial Hal joining, this Dark Zero roster, is still undecided as to what this will be. Will it be Dark Zero? But Sikezz did come out to say, on a serious note, despite all this stuff going on, massive thanks to Zero and Jin Burton for the opportunity to team with them. And a lot of cool things happened and got so close to winning. Hal is literally the only player in the game that I understand getting replaced for, and hold no anger towards them whatsoever. Wish them the best. And honestly, I get what he's saying. It makes sense, right? There's probably only one player you'd be okay with this about, and it's got to be Hal. At the same time, man, it sucks. And I know that this was pre-planned. Sikezz went into this knowing this was going to happen. He went into the LAN knowing this would be his last one playing with Dark Zero. Hal had already had all of this stuff alongside of the Dark Zero players. They had this stuff lined up, right? Because according to Hal, it seemed like his contract had actually already expired by the time they went to LAN, and they had already had to put this stuff together as to where they were going to be going after the fact. And so all of this stuff makes sense now that you look back, now that you understand the context of where it was all coming from. It still sucks for Sikezz. I look at this and I'm just like, man, it sucks. But I gotta say, honestly speaking here, I am a big fan of where Sikezz is going. And if you haven't seen this already, we're going to talk about how Luminosity did in their first set of matches last night. And I will say I love Sikezz on this roster. Here's what Sweet had to say about the future of the Luminosity roster. Roll the clip.
Are you still planning more trials? Originally, yes, but I don't think we need to anymore. I think we're pretty locked in with Sikezz. So, yeah. Definitely a formidable squad. Me funkin' Sikezz.
So I think Sikezz joining LG honestly is going to be one of the better decisions for that team. I think they are going to have a lot of experience and a lot of raw slaying power at the same time. And I really hope the best for Slayer as well, because I feel like he's got so much potential. He's got so much going on for him as well. But Sikezz is a guy that, you don't get the opportunity to grab. And whenever you do, obviously, you want to make sure that you do so, especially for a situation like Sweet, who was coming into these roster changes a little bit late. And he was making some decisions that he really had to, I guess, put some stock into. And he did a lot of that for Funk and Slayer. And so now this change, it makes sense. But I hope the best for everybody involved, to be honest with you. Then you also had this coming out from, I hope it's Keanu. I've known this guy for quite some time, and I've really never learned to pronounce his name. But everybody's been talking about, well, okay, Hal joining Zero and Jin Burton, but what's next for the TSM boys, right? So you had this concept, right? Reps would be the IGL, Verhulst may be the anchor, Fragger, Sikezz to join. I would love that, but of course we know that's not happening any longer. Sikezz to be joining LG. Now the question is Reps going to still be playing? He had posted this broken free gift that was going on. Is he just going to be a sub so that Verhulst can keep the spot and maybe do his own thing and get some other people involved with the TSM slot? Is Verhulst going somewhere else? Is Reps going to actually IGL? Of course, he's been around Hal for some time, so he would know what to do. But I do think that Verhulst playing with Reps would be so much fun to watch, and I think so many people would get behind that. Of course, if Reps does decide to retire or move on to something else, it will be bittersweet, and I do think people will still root on for Verhulst in the future. Now, here was this. Vacation's over. Evan finally came out after all of this stuff was posted. Hal got his moment, and he came out to say vacation's over. It's time to lock back in. It's time to get involved. Reps also to say welcome back. You would love to see this and think like, okay, these guys are getting ready to cook up something great. I would love to see his former teammate Skittle get involved here, because Skittle obviously no longer going to be playing with that OpTic roster that we saw. Seems like they're going to be trialing someone else. I think Verhulst and Skittle getting back on the same team would be an amazing sight to see, and the fans are going to be behind Evan here, and they're going to want to see this, because although Hal is the fan favorite, it is definitely safe to say that people feel weird about this change. They feel weird about this decision. It does not feel right, and it definitely isn't going to set well with a lot of people that are, your diehard Hal fans that, kind of hated Zero, right? Zero was supposed to be this villain, this enemy. He's the rival, and now you're going to join him. It just feels like, who are we rooting for at this point? So a lot of people, of course, are going to jump ship. They're going to do the thing that most people are probably going to do. And honestly, at the end of the day, look, we all support almost everybody in the scene. You know, despite the storylines going on, we all want the best. And of course, I think the roster change is awesome. And as far as the viewers are concerned, everybody's going to be excited for this. They're going to want to watch these lands. They want to see if the CEO actually continues to be the CEO, if this super team is a super team, or will you have someone else that no one's looking at just come away and sweep the day and just say, look, it doesn't matter about those super teams. It matters about doing all the small things right, having faith in one another as a team. And obviously APAC North is still not really getting the attention. Everybody's talking about North America and these crazy teams, and here's APAC North just literally winning the recent LAN, and people is like they've forgotten about them at this point. But I do like the setup for Apex right now. I feel like all the viewers are getting more invested into it, and on one hand I was like, oh, you know, this might be a little bit weird. There is no like rival, it seems, anymore now that he's on the same team as the rival. But I think fans are really receptive over it. They're really buying into Apex Esports, and I think this is going to want to make everybody watch, because I will say honestly, today was the first day I really watched scrims in a very long time, because I really wanted to see how these rosters were going to battle it out. So we'll keep you up to date, obviously, with what Verhulst decides to do and where this new roster that he's going to be playing for goes. But the question is, what's going to happen with Dark Zero? Is Dark Zero actually going to have this roster of this super team? And the reason this is kind of being proposed as a question is because Hal specifically said that he was joining Zero and Jen Burton moving forward. He did not say he was joining Dark Zero moving forward. And the question also on top of that is, you know, months ago you had Sweet and all of this stuff with ZZ and like the drama that was going on and these rumors that were going on and all these elevator story things that had happened, and God only knows what was really going on. But they said that in the midst of figuring out all this drama, there was actually a different enemy that they both had in common. And I don't know who that is, but, you know, a lot of people theorized, is it Dark Zero? Is Dark Zero being shady in all of this? Are they, you know, somewhat to blame for a lot of this stuff going on? I don't really know, but it looks like Dark Zero might not be involved with this roster. And you have to ask yourself, can they even afford that roster? And if not, who can? What organization is not only already skittish about Apex, but then on top of that, you're asking them to buy countless upon countless assets in this scene that are going to cost a lot. I mean, Hal's got to be the highest paid player. Zero's got to be probably the second highest paid just because of how much he wins. And then Jen's got to be up there in the top 5 or top 10 at least. And then on top of that, ZZ has got to be a pretty expensive coach. Are they going to add more staff members to this roster as well? I don't know. So anyways, which actual organization could get involved? A lot of people said maybe OpTic would want to return for this. I highly doubt it, but it is possible. Red Bull is another thing. Obviously, Hal was repping his Red Bull gear quite a bit. Now, he did answer a question about Red Bull. And to my knowledge, I heard he got a phone call on stream that was pretty lengthy after he went on to talk about Red Bull. I'm not sure if it was actually related or not, but here was his response about Red Bull signing them as a new team. And of course, that would be a new organization to join the scene. Roll the clip.
You think Red Bull would ever get into Apex? On a team?
No, because they would have done it already. Like,
do they have any esports orgs like in games?
They sponsor esports orgs like T1, like the T1 team, like Furia, I think. They sponsor certain orgs, but I don't know. To put it bluntly, why would they sponsor a team in Apex when they can just like sponsor me? You know, it's
that's
like,
a good point.
It's like the most egotistical shit ever, but like if you think about it, if you just like think about it, you know, it's, I don't know.
So as you can see, the Red Bull one is kind of weird. It's like, yes, they are involved in the scene already, but they're not necessarily an esports organization, but they do have some esport organizations like out there that are like under the Red Bull banner. So it'll be interesting to see how they actually get in, if they do. But obviously Hal seemed to say that it wasn't necessarily that. So maybe another organization would look to get involved. And I gotta point fingers at the Saudi Arabia country. Obviously they are going to be hosting the big esports World Cup. We know that Saudi Arabian money is quite large. We know they have a lot of it. We know they want to invest into the scene. Obviously they're doing so with the esports World Cup, but then also you got to wonder, will like Falcons or so try to get into the ALGS scene, and they've got the money, maybe they want to sign this super tier roster, and maybe that's where this big paycheck's going to come from. But another thing that was a shock for a lot of people to see was Shuby posting this, saying he was potentially looking for a new team if the boys get an offer. Made grand finals my first LAN, and top frag for E8. DMs are open on all socials, and people are like, what in the world? These guys are doing good in scrims literally just today with all these new roster changes. They did pretty good at ALGS. They had a lot of momentum coming from PSQs. They all believe in one another. They have a very good tight-knit environment, it seems. So what could be happening there? Well, I think a lot of people are looking at it maybe like an organization upgrade. Maybe Zach finds a place at TSM. Could you imagine, you know, Zach being such close friends with Imperial How and then joining TSM to go with Reps and Verhulst? I think it would be crazy to say the least. Or if Reps does retire and Zapto and Zach join in TSM with Verhulst, that would be crazy stuff too. So a lot of things to possibly go down, but I think a lot of people were probably surprised to see this coming from Shuby, and honestly, I hate to see it because Shuby's such a great player. And you cannot say I'm not dedicated. I woke up about literally 5 minutes ago, saw that there was more roster news, and had to add this into the video just before it went public. So Drop from OpTic Gaming apparently now has also come out to say he's looking for a team, and from what I'm hearing, it seems like the entire OpTic Apex roster went their separate ways. Noct might be going to E8, who knows? But you have Drop coming out to say one of the most accomplished players in the game, looking to continue and win a LAN finally, grind this game more than almost anyone, and looking to join another team to bring results. Then you also had coming from Zach Mazer. He basically said that, like, look, everybody I've spoke to so far really wants Shuby. I've spoke with 9 teams so far since this offer's gone up, and almost every single team was interested in Shu. Pick up the boy while he's hot. Now, where could Zach Mazer be going? Of course, we've already mentioned maybe TSM. Who knows where he might go, but it seems like he may stick around with Zap. So interested to see where this goes. Now, how did these rosters perform in their first set of scrims? This was an 8-game set scrim, so not 6 games. So they got a lot of action in this, and things were very interesting. So firstly, Space Station did finish first. Now, this was Koi, this was Zainu, and this was Phony. So Frex was not in this, and SSG dominated. So your super team isn't really super teaming right now because it was a landslide. 121 points for SSG. Second place was 80. So it was a 41-point difference between first and second. And just to put that into perspective, I know it's first and second, but a 40-point difference is similar to the 8th place and the last place spot as well. So this just goes to show you guys, these dudes were on top of it. SSG in first place. Now, LG with Sikezz, Funk, and Sweet were second place with 80 points, and I was happy to see that. I think that roster is going to have a lot of success as well. Then this Dark Zero, they're now called as of now. We'll see if they actually stay Dark Zero, but that was the TSM, the Zero, and the Jin Burton roster. They got third place with 73 points. I thought it was great, though, because they did win the first game. What a way to kick it off. Xset is in 4th place here. Of course, I heard they were playing with Reptar. We'll see how that one goes. Elevate in 5th place, Vanity in 6th, and then Native Gaming in 7th. Obviously, I think a lot of people were not expecting that one, but, you know, kudos to Native. And then Cloud9 in 8th place. Team Yup in 9th place. This is an interesting one because this one was with Snipe Down, Zenile, and Osivian. So these guys obviously have a little bit of history as well inside of the Pro League scene. They're all coming together as one. So I'm going to be interested to see if that roster does pretty well consistently or if this was a one-off. But I will say a top 10 for them. I think a lot of people doubt them. And so I'm excited to see it. And best of luck to those guys in the future as well. Complexity in 10th, Furia in 11th, Ape Gang in 12th, EC in 13th, Gaming Gladiators in 14th, SKD Mark in 15th, The Edgers in 16th, Oblivion in 17th, Most Hated in 18th, Liquid Alienware in 19th, and Oxygen Esports in 20th. Now, lastly, just as we wrap the video up, I want to let you guys know these were the regional slots for Apex and ALGS Split 2 playoffs. So because you had North America do solid as always, you had APAC North do a little bit better than normal, you had other regions. You guys know that these playoff spots are determined based on how well you do at the other lands. So here are the regional slots that you have. North America will still have 12 spots. EMEA will have 8 spots. APAC North will have 9 spots. APAC South will have 7 spots. And then the Chinese and the South Americans will still have 2 spots each. Now, the EMEA and APAC South should be at 7 and 6, but due to North America not being allowed to gain any slots, they both get 1 slot returned to them. So let me know down below what your thoughts are on the roster changes. I'm a big fan of Sikezz coming over to LG, and I'm very interested to see where Verhulst finds himself in the new roster that he's going to be playing with, and a big fan of the SSG roster change as well. Let me know what your thoughts are, and until the next time, we'll see you all later, Gators.